Hello student, welcome you to massive open online course on Indian economy. Today I am going to discuss the module entitled Women Empowerment, a comparative study among the SAARC countries. After completing this module, you are able to learn the concept of women empowerment as well as the measurement of women empowerment. And you also able to know the status of empowerment of the women in India and other SAARC countries, and also the determinants of the women empowerment, that is what are the factors that affects the women empowerment. The present module consists with 6 sections. Section 1 introduces the theme, whereas section 2 is the concept and the measurement of the Women Empowerment Index, and section 3 exclusively explain the performance of the different countries in respect of the women empowerment, whereas section 4 deals with the relative position of different countries, different SAARC countries in respect of the overall women empowerment index, and section 5 describes the factors that affects the women empowerment, and finally section 6 makes the concluding observations. Women empowerment is a very relevant concept in respect of the development of the economy, and this women empowerment related with the all-round development of the women, and the concept of the women empowerment is developed by different social economists or different social activists, because across different countries women are lagging behind in respect of their freedom, their mobility, and from other means of life, means of achievement in respect of their life. Therefore, women empowerment is a very relevant concept in the today's world of the development. Even in the Sustainable Development Goals agenda, the gender inequality or gender disparity as well as the women empowerment is also the sustainable, also included in the Sustainable Development Goal. And here we analyze the concept of women empowerment or the progress in respect of the women empowerment across different SAARC countries. SAARC stands for South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. Since their inception, these countries were mainly focused of different issues of development along with the women empowerment. And these SAARC countries included Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Most of the countries are neighboring countries of the India, and these 8 countries are the member of the SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Before going to discuss the status of women empowerment among the SAARC countries, let us see how we can define the women empowerment and how we can measure it. As regards the concept of the women empowerment, different economists or social activists, they have developed different concepts. Here we have considered 2 important definitions to explain the women empowerment, and this definition mainly based on the ability approach. Amartya Sen developed the capability approach, and the basic ideas of the capability approach is that if the person is able to do something to fulfill his well-being, then he or she can overcome different types of problem from their life or livelihood. And according to the A.K. Sen, A.K. Sen defined the empowerment and in his words, the women empowerment is an expansion in an individual's agency, that is the expansion in one's ability to act and bring about the change. That is women empowerment means expansion of the individual quality or ability or capability that helps her to bring some change in her life, bring some positive change in her life. Similarly, the COVID also provided a basic concept or definition regarding the women empowerment, and this concept also related with the ability. In his words, the empowerment means the process of change and refers to it as the process by which those who have been denied to ability to make choices acquire such as ability. That is, it is a process, and this process helps the woman to make some change in her life. Side by side, here we have considered another concept of the women empowerment developed by Alkayat and others, and they consider women empowerment is a multidimensional approach. That is, it is a multidimensional process, and in this process they have considered different aspects of the women to empower themselves. These aspects include their family relationship, their freedom, their economic background, their emotional health, as well as their social standing, their social status. On the basis of different dimension or different aspects, Alkayat and others have made an attempt to measure the multidimensional women empowerment. Here we have considered these multidimensional aspects of the women empowerment to measure the multidimensional women empowerment index. To measure the multidimensional women empowerment index, in the present study, we have considered 3 dimensions. These 3 dimensions are related with health, education, and economic and political decision. The health dimension includes 3 indicators, and these indicators are life expectancy at birth of female mortality rate, that is mortality rate per 1000 adult female, and number 3 is the adolescent birth rate, that is birth rate per 1000 women for the age group 15 to 19 years. Whereas in case of education dimension, there are 2 indicators. One is female population with at least some secondary education, that is the percentage of female population that have the secondary education, and another indicator of education dimension is expected years of schooling of female. In case of economic dimension, we have considered only 1 indicator, that is female labor force participation rate, which is related with the employment status of the women. And in case of political dimension, we have also considered 1 indicator, that is seat reservation in the parliament, share of seats in parliament held by the women. On the basis of these 7 indicators, we are able to measure the women empowerment index. Now we come to the methodology of the women empowerment index. First off, we have calculated the dimension index for different indicators across the 8 SAARC countries, and the dimension index is calculated by using the specific formula, where the dimension index of a particular indicator for a particular country I and for the period T is defined as the actual value minus the minimum value divided by the maximum value minus the minimum value. The similar dimension index formula also used in the Human Development Index, and this is the standard formula, that is for a particular indicator. The actual value means actual value of a particular country, and minimum value means the minimum value among the 8 countries in our case, and in the denominator it is the maximum value minus the minimum value, that is maximum value among the 8 countries of in a particular indicator. On the basis of this formula, we are able to measure the dimension index of these 7 indicators. Then the next step is the aggregation of this dimension index to get the overall women empowerment index. Here we have seven dimension index corresponding 7 indicators, and therefore the aggregation of these 7 dimension index gives the overall women empowerment index. The overall women empowerment index for the ith state for the year T is denoted by WEI suffix int, which is equal to summation j equal to 1 to 7 dij it. Here j means for the jth indicator, and this number of indicator varies from 1 to c. Therefore, summation j from 1 to 7 dij it. And this is the index value, therefore it has no unit. On the basis of the index value, we are able to understand the relative position of the status of women empowerment of different SAARC countries. Now we discuss the status of the women empowerment in respect of the different indicators. We have considered 7 indicators. Therefore, for each of the indicator, our task is to understand the relative status of the women empowerment across different countries. First of all, we consider the health dimension, and within the health dimension, there are 3 indicators. The first indicator is life expectancy of birth for the females. In respect of the life expectancy of birth or life expectancy at birth for the female, the value is relatively higher for the countries like Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, and it is relatively low for the countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. In case of India, life expectancy at birth for female is 70.7 years, whereas in case of Sri Lanka and Maldives, it is more than 80 years. For Sri Lanka, it is 80.1 years. For Maldives, it is 80.5 years. And the life expectancy at birth for female is relatively low for the Afghanistan. All the figures corresponding the year 2018. This table help us to understand the change of the life expectancy at birth over time. In case of Maldives, that occupied the relatively top position in respect of the life expectancy of birth among the SAARC countries. In case of Maldives, yes, its value increased from 77.4 years to 80.5 years. That is a change of 3.1 years. In case of India, its value increased from 67.7 years to 70.7 years. That is a change of 3 years. But life expectancy of the change of life expectancy of birth is relatively low for the Sri Lanka. During this period 2010 to 2018, only 1.2% is the change of the life expectancy at birth for the females. This is the relative position in respect of the life expectancy of the birth across different SAARC countries. Now we come to the second indicator of the health dimension, which is the mortality rate. Here we measure the mortality rate of female per 1,000 female population, and the mortality rate is also relatively high or very high in case of Bhutan and Afghanistan. In case of Bhutan, the mortality rate is 195. That is, out of 1,000 female, the mortality rate is 195. And in case of Afghanistan, it is closer to Bhutan, 194. In case of Pakistan, 137. In India, it is 133. But mortality rate is significantly low in case of Maldives. It is only 52. And in case of Sri Lanka, it is 71. Even the mortality rate of Bangladesh and Nepal are lower than the mortality rate of India. Therefore, the mortality rate is a negative factor. Higher mortality rate means the women are relatively deprived in this particular dimension. Therefore, here the expected outcome is the reduction of the mortality rate across different countries. During this period 2010 and 2018, we have noticed that all of the SAARC countries have witnessed the reduction of the women mortality rate or female mortality rate. But this reduction was highest in case of Bhutan and Nepal, where their reduction was 36 each. And this reduction also relatively high for Afghanistan and India. In case of Afghanistan it is 35, in case of India it is 25. But the reduction is relatively low in case of Sri Lanka, it is only 8. Now come to the third indicator of the health dimension. This third indicator related with the adolescent birth rate per 1,000 women of the age group 15 to 19 years. This is due to the early marriage. Due to the early marriage, the adolescent girl, there is the this is the rate. This rate help us to understand the adolescent birth rate for the women age group 15 to 19 years. This adolescent birth rate is relatively high in case of Bangladesh. It is 83, followed by Afghanistan, Nepal, Pakistan, but it is relatively low in case of Maldives and India. In case of India, it is only 13.2, and in case of Maldives, even lower than India, it is 7.8. And this adolescent birth rate, it is also a negative factor. Therefore, here the expected outcome is the reduction of the early the marriage as well as reduction of the adolescent childbirth. And here all the countries have witnessed the reduction of the adolescent childbirth for the during the age group 15 to 19 years of women. But the reduction was the highest in case of Afghanistan, it is 64.1, followed by India 31.4, whereas the reduction is relatively low in case of Sri Lanka, it is only 1.4. Second dimension is the education dimension. Education dimension consists with two indicators. First indicator is expected years of schooling for the females. It is measured by years. And in case of expected years of schooling, the value is relatively high for Sri Lanka. It is 14.2, followed by India 12.9, Nepal, Maldives, Bhutan. All these countries, Bhutan, Maldives, Nepal and India, the expected years of schooling are closer to each other, approximately 12% for them. But the expected years of schooling for female is relatively less for the Pakistan and Afghanistan. In case of Pakistan, it is 7.8%. In case of Afghanistan, it is only 7.9%. But this expected years of schooling not increase significantly during this period, during the period 2010 to 2018. Only India witnessed improvement at the extent of 2.4 years, followed by Bangladesh 2.2 years. For all other countries, the expected years of schooling not increased significantly, and their rate of increase is less than 1%. Now we come to the another indicator of the education dimension, and that is the population, female population with secondary level of education. The out of total female population, the secondary level of education, in respect of secondary level of education, 82.6% of the women in case of Sri Lanka achieved the secondary education, whereas this share is relatively low in case of Bhutan. It is only 7.6. In case of Afghanistan, it is 13.2. Even in our country, in India, the value is 39. That is, the female secondary education of India is also lagging behind in respect of other countries like Maldives, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. But in case of Sri Lanka, the value is significantly high, 82.6. Over time, the secondary level of education or secondary educated women significantly increased across the SAARC countries, but the improvement is relatively higher in case of Maldives followed by Nepal and Bangladesh as well as India. Now we come to the economic dimension. After the two dimension, health and education, the third dimension is the economic dimension. In case of economic dimension, we have considered the labor force participation rate, female labor force participation rate. This is a very important indicator to understand the employment status of the women or economic status of the women. And this labor force participation rate is relatively high in case of Nepal. It is 81.7%. Even in case of Bhutan, it is 58%. But it is the lowest in case of India. It is only 23.6%. That is, out of total female, the 23.6% are in the labor force. In case of Pakistan, the value is quite closer to the India. It is 23.9%. Section 4 describes the overall women empowerment index, which is the aggregate score of the dimension index of 7 indicators under 4 alternative dimensions. If we considered the overall women empowerment index, then this value also widely varied across different SAARC countries. And in case of Sri Lanka, its value is 4.9, and in case of Afghanistan, its value is 1.9. That is, there is a huge variation of the status of the women empowerment across SAARC countries, and Sri Lanka has occupied the top position, followed by Maldives, Nepal, and India. That is, India, in compared to India, the status of women empowerment is relatively high in case of Nepal, Maldives, and Sri Lanka, but the status of women empowerment is relatively low in Pakistan, Bhutan, and Bangladesh compared to India, and even in case of Afghanistan, its status is also relatively lower compared to the India. Therefore, this picture helps us to understand the relative position of different countries in respect of the status of the women empowerment. Whereas this particular figure helps us to understand the trend of the status of women empowerment during 2010 to 2018. Here Sri Lanka, during the entire time period, Sri Lanka occupied the top position, followed by Afghanistan, Pakistan, but the relative position of Bhutan, Bangladesh, and India changed over time. In the initial year 2010, the relative position of Bangladesh is better compared to Bhutan and India, but during the recent years, that is during 2018, the relative position of India and Bangladesh are closer to each other, and their position is better than the Bhutan. These lines is actually the relative position of the trend of women empowerment index for the Pakistan, and this is for the Afghanistan. Therefore, Afghanistan and Pakistan are the bottom countries during the entire period. The status of women empowerment is relatively less, not only in the recent years, but also during the entire periods from 2010 to 2018. Now we come to the factors which are accounted for the differential status of the women empowerment, because the women empowerment, aggregate women empowerment index, or the individual indicators, scores of individual indicators also widely varies across different SAARC countries. What are the reason behind the variation of the women empowerment across SAARC countries or across different countries? Here we have identified the 3 types of indicator are mainly prominent to explain the variation of the status of women empowerment. In the literature of the women empowerment, they have explored these indicators in details. From the literature, we have found that these dimension or indicators are crucial to the differential status of the women empowerment. And we have classified the factors into three categories: social factors, cultural factors, and the economic factors. In case of social factors, the factor like religion, that is religion affiliation of the woman, caste affiliation of the woman, as well as husband dominance, they are the factors that affects the status of the women empowerment. Similarly, in case of cultural factor, the education status of the woman or the education status of the family or education background of the husband, as well as self-esteem of the women. Side by side, the domestic violence. These factors are highly related with the variation of the women empowerment across the SAARC countries. Side by side, it is also true that some economic factors like employment, wealth, and financial inclusion, they are also caused for the variation of the women empowerment or status of women empowerment across different SAARC countries. Now we come to the conclusion. So far we have discussed the differential status of the women empowerment across different SAARC countries, and among the 8 SAARC countries, the position of Sri Lanka is relatively better, whereas the position of Pakistan and Afghanistan are in the bottom position. In case of India, in most of the indicators of the women empowerment, the position of India is lagging behind in respect of the other SAARC countries. Therefore, a course correction is needed to achieve the women empowerment in our country as well as other SAARC countries. And it is true that for the holistic development of the country or of the economy, the women development or women empowerment is also essential. Without women empowerment, a country can able to achieve its target, whether in respect of sustainable development goals, whether in respect of human development, whether in respect of elimination of poverty. Therefore, in respect of every sphere of the life, the empowerment of women is essential. In this respect, here we consider a particular argument that provided by the Indian monk and philosopher Swami Vivekananda. In his words, there is no chance for the welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved. It is not possible for a bird to fly on only one wing. Therefore, for the holistic development or for the sustainable development, we need to empower our women. Otherwise, we are not able to achieve the sustainable development.